Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, is sponsored by SJ&L General Contractors. They are licensed in both Alabama and Tennessee, and they provide services such as mass grading, storm drainage, sewer and concrete improvement, asphalt paving, erosion control, demolition, and heavy hauling. If you need any of these services, contact them 931-433-4660, 931-433-4660. Also, they are in need of heavy equipment operators, concrete finishers, CDL dump truck drivers, and pipe layers. If you're interested in employment with this family-owned business, you can go to the website www.sjnl.com. That's www.sjnl.com. I try not to be that guy. I try not to have an opinion on everything. I try not to be that guy who says, oh, you mispronounced that word or that's incorrect grammar. I really do try to keep my mouth shut. I try not to be that guy. I can remember on a men's retreat, we were at Paint Rock Valley Lodge and Retreat. Paint Rock Valley used to be a hunting lodge, and it became kind of just a tourist place. They got several old retired satellite dishes and even a long, tall cell tower. And the guys at the retreat were having to climb up the tower a little ways to get a signal for their cell phones. And we were standing around near the base of the tower at the bed of my pickup truck. And somebody said, I've got a buddy who changes lights in those towers. And he says he'll climb up there with the replacement bulbs in a burlap bag. And after he replaces the bulbs, he'll wrap that burlap bag, just throw it over those cables and slide all the way back down to the ground. And before I could catch myself, before I could stop it, the words came out of my mouth. No, he doesn't. No, he didn't. He's never done it. You see, no one's ever been killed from rock climbing, from falling. No one's ever been killed rappelling from falling. Hang gliding, parasailing, bungee jumping, skydiving, nobody's ever been killed from falling. It's hitting the ground that kills every one of them. If you slid off of a cell phone tower on the guy wire with a burlap bag, number one, the burlap bag's not going to stay intact. It's going to be eaten through by that wire. Number two, if your bag did stay intact, have you noticed how they anchor those cables to the ground with those large pieces of metal, those moving pulleys and those large 3/8 inch or larger metal bolts? You hit one of those things, your tombstone marker is in the shape of Wile E. Coyote. You die from sudden deceleration trauma. I think it's a 6% grade tolerance that the human body can sustain on a zip line, although I'm not an expert on a zip line. I do know some things about it. The cell phone tower lines are at best a 45-degree angle. And when you step off that tower and try to hold on to that wire, you're a dead man. I couldn't help it. I didn't want to say anything, but before I could stop it, it just came out. And I don't like being that guy. But once in a while, and I do mean in rare blue moon occurrences, it happens. Every now and then, I get in a mood and I have to say something. Now, before I tell you this story, let's be clear. I don't have a Milan Labe sticker on my car. That's the Spartan response when Xerxes says, lay down your weapons, and Leonidas at Thermopylae says, having come, take them. Milan Labe. I don't have that sticker on my car. I'm not a member of the NRA, and I really don't adhere to the adage when they pry it from my cold, dead hands. Although I've been guilty of saying that if they decide they're going to take my guns, I'll turn them in. I'll just give them my bullets first. But I do have a concealed carry permit. I've had a concealed carry permit since I was 21 years old. And I often carry a concealed weapon, even though I don't carry one all the time. I usually have some type of means of self-protection in my vehicle. On the day the mood hit, I was meeting some people at an establishment in Cookeville, Tennessee. I'd driven the 2 or 3 hours to Cookeville, and I drove into the restaurant parking lot, and this particular chain had a sign on the door, and the sign said, and I quote, "We do not recognize the Second Amendment and ban all firearms from these premises." Now, I recognize it is the right of the property owner to allow or disallow weapons. And I'm okay with that. And I'm really basically okay with either choice. It's just the wording of the sign that brought on this particular mood. We do not recognize the Second Amendment. I've cautiously told people you don't have to believe in hell to go there. Just because you don't like something, just because you don't believe it, doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't really matter what your personal opinion is. Truth is truth. If it's true at A, it's true at Z. That's what makes it true. But here I am, standing outside this restaurant, and I'm in a mood. I asked to speak to the manager. He came out, and he was kind and gracious. I asked him, "Do you have any weapons of any kind on the premises?" He did not. "Do you have a weapon?" He did not. "Do you employ armed security?" He did not. He politely told me that having weapons or using armed security would be in violation of the company policy. I told him that I respected the right to make the policy. However, I explained that since he had no weapons and that I had not only firearms but other weapons in my truck as well, that I was choosing on my own volition not to enter the restaurant with them, and that he really did not have any actual ability to ban them. His sign would be better worded. "We respectfully or politely request that those of you who legally own firearms and have the legal right to carry them not bring them into our restaurant." Because you see, he not having any weapons could not ban an armed man from bringing his weapon in. My compliance with his sign had nothing to do with his power, but rather my choice. Now, I understand that if I violate his policy, it would involve the removal of myself from the restaurant and possibly even my arrest. But the guys who came in to remove me and arrest me would be armed men. They would not be men without arms. An armed man will defeat an unarmed man with monotonous regularity. I asked the little waitress as she began to seat us that if I could, rather than sit in a booth, would like to sit at a table. She said, "Well, why do you want to sit at a table?" I said, "Because your boss will not let me has asked me not to bring my weapons in here. And if somebody starts acting up, I'm going to have to beat him into pieces with a chair." It's interesting that my order was correct and my drink glass was never empty during the business meeting. My compliance with his sign had nothing to do with his power, but my choice. Plain and simple. Submission, obedience, compliance, and meekness often get confused with weakness or being powerless. In truth, in actuality, it is really a statement of strength, the above mood story notwithstanding. When we choose to do something that we aren't forced to do, that's when we demonstrate true strength or true character. It's when we choose to be compliant. It's when we choose to be submissive. It's when we choose to let someone else have control. When I forego my rights for the needs of other people, that's a real statement of strength. It's not what I have to do, but rather what I choose to do that makes me a person of integrity or a person of character. Put your needs above my rights. Turn the other cheek. Go the second mile. Don't respond when possessing the power to respond. Don't respond when possessing the power to respond and try to quote unquote win. No one really ever wins a fight. Christianity is based on the fact that God and Jesus did something for us that was impossible for us to do, and that we were in no position to demand or even ask them to do in the first place. but they chose to do it. Choosing to submit is about learning the power of self-control and learning to let someone else be in control of ourself. That's real power. There are 32 miles of cave passages in Cumberland Cavern. 333 feet underground is the Volcano Room. The Volcano Room is the site for the youth rally known as Erupt. It's an underground youth rally. It's an annual event. It takes place in October. The next Erupt is scheduled for October of 2021. Erupt is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. If you'd like more information, you may contact them at eruptyouthRally@gmail.com. That's eruptyouthRally@gmail.com. Or check out their website for more information, 3 W's and a dot, eruptyouthRally.com, www.eruptyouthRally.com.